My name is Ty Springall, and this is The Noisy Life, a music podcast about the noise we grew up on and the noise we're making now. Hey, people of the internet, what's happening? This is episode 4 of the Noisy Life podcast. Welcome in. We have a pretty decent, awesome guest for you this week.
Decent's good.
I think decent's a good word. Just be happy with it.
For sure.
But yeah, it's a dude that I think everyone knows in the music world. If you've been out to a show or two, or if you've been to even one Rockin' for Dollars, I would say.
I'm there a lot.
Everyone knows this guy. It's Coleman Johnston.
Hi, Ty.
Listen to the applause. It's grand.
The roar of the masses could be farts. Could be a farting door.
Yeah. Yeah, welcome to the basement.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I've been meaning to have you on for a while. We are in a band together called The Staples, and, you know, Maddie was on last week. You're on. I guess next in line is Craig, but we'll see when he has some time. But nonetheless, I mean, there are several other reasons why you're on. I mean, you're very prominent in the Halifax music scene, I guess. Probably like most people in the music circles that we find ourselves in, they probably know you before you actually have met them. Just because you're in a lot of bands, you're in a lot of little projects or one-offs, and you're always at Rockin' for Dollars, working the door and helping out and playing your solo thing, and yeah, so it's awesome to have you.
Thank you.
So I know you from Rockin' for Dollars.
For sure.
I mean, I'm pretty new to the city, a couple of years now, but like, when did you start going to Rockin' for Dollars?
I started going to Rock for Dollars when I reconnected with John from my high school punk band, and I basically wound up moving in with him on Quinpool Road and like playing drums in his kind of like rock and roll, kind of funky R&B kind of project. He's a very, very great guitar player. One of the best finger pickers I've ever seen, actually. And so it was around that time that I kind of started. It was a little before that. Like, I had gone down and like checked out Rock for Dollars. Like, I'd gone down with Dale and like my friend Kyle and stuff like that. But I went down. I started playing there with John in like 2010, 2011 sort of thing. So like Dale and I had pulled a couple of like weirdo like one-offs and stuff like that of just us doing unpracticed BS and stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, I've pretty much been going to Rock for Dollars on and off since like 2008 or 2009 or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's been going for 11 years now, right?
11 years, yeah. It's an institution.
Plus. Yeah. That's cool, because, yeah, that's where I met you and most people I know that are into music around here nowadays. So, yeah, I'm just trying to remember exactly where I first saw you. I probably first saw you playing the Husker Du band with Matt.
Yeah, Matt and Colleen.
Or solo, like you usually do.
Yeah.
Just playing whatever.
On my $200 and $400 nights.
$200 and $400 nights. Yeah. That's right. Always at the forefront.
I've earned it.
The opening act, I guess.
Yeah.
Could call you.
The curtain jerker. And
now you're in a band called Future Girls.
Yep.
And what other bands are you in? Are you in bands, or are you just playing?
I'm in 4 solid bands that perform regularly, semi-regularly, or are at least a cohesive unit. So it'd be like the Staples, which is the newest project, which is a whole pile of fun to be playing Craig's songs. I'm kind of flattered and honored that he asked me to be in that band and start, when he finally got back into making music and stuff like that. I'm glad that he asked me and you and Matt to to do it because I think we've got a good thing going there as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, it's definitely flowing well.
Absolutely.
And it's fun.
Yeah. I'm in a band called the B Plus Players, which is one of the funnest bands I've ever been in. It's myself, Joel Langis, Adrian Broom, who used to run Rockin' for Dollars with Craig, and Adrian's another one of those guys that has just been around forever. I've known forever. I can't say enough good things about him because he's just done so much for the scene. Besides like Rockin' for Dollars, he's like playing in all these bands, he's booking all these shows, he's drawing all these posters. He was screen printing shirts until recently, and he's just, that's great. Mike Ainsley is in that band as well, a guy who plays around an awful lot. He was in Between the Cities, he's in Coffin Fitters with Luke Way and Gary, and yeah, he's around. That band is kind of a gimmick band, but it's a lot of fun because like we're just having fun writing funny songs about wrestlers and the songs with a wrestling theme, and like taking funny pictures of all of us in wrestling shirts and doing Four Horsemen poses and the poses like the Shield and stuff like that.
Headlock, got me in a headlock for half the damn match. I can't even see my brother standing on the apron, reaching for a tag that I just can't catch. I throw some elbows, try to get momentum, but they're putting the boots to me. It's 2-on-1. I hit the ropes, nail the crossbody. Here's where the real fight has only begun. It's a long, high crawl, it's a torturous drag. If I can make the jump, we got this one in the bag. I just need a high tag. I just need a high tag. I just need a high tag. Headlock, now they got him in the corner for crying out loud. Working on the neck, working on the shoulders. All I can do is keep working the crowd. I try to rally, try to get momentum. The arena is electric and they're chanting our names. I see my brother nail the crossbody. Now it's my turn for bringing the pain. It's a long, high crawl, it's a torturous drag. If you can make the jump, we got this one in the bag. I just need a high tag. I just need a high tag. I just need a high tag.
With God as my witness, I have never seen two men intertwined at this capacity in my life.
He's going for the real Nova Scotian muscle exploder, and he's not letting up.
He's reaching, clawing, fighting, and scrouching to get to his partner.
It's taking every ounce of guts and soul he has to get to that corner.
By God, he did it! Hot tag! Hot tag!
For the thousands in attendance are all on their feet. There ain't a single person that is sitting in their seats. There will be no distractions and no more delays, no interferences from managers or valet. I put one out of the ring, put the other in a signature tag team tie for motherfucking double finisher. Ain't breaking the count, you see the referee. You're looking up at the lights and hear 1, 2, 3. It's a long, high crawl, it's a torturous drag. If I can make the jump, we got this one in the bag. I just need a high tag. I just need a high tag. I just need a high tag.
I've always liked B Plus Players. That's
Yeah.
another one I first saw you in. Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's
There you go.
yeah, because I remember earlier when Joel would play Rockin' for Dollars more.
Mhm.
Like he doesn't really much anymore.
No, not all that much.
But when he would, when you guys were playing at the end of the night a lot.
Yeah.
I remember.
We had the 12:30 slot all the time.
Yeah, the 12:30. And I remember that was like one of the first couple times I saw you guys, and I was like, I loved you guys.
Yeah.
It was an awesome
Thank
thing.
you.
And I used to be pretty into wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say these days I am,
Yeah.
but back in early 2000s, I was totally into wrestling. So I still
It's
get
the
all
heyday.
yeah, like like going into the 2000s there, and then
Yeah.
a little after there. Yeah, that was the best. And so like I'm pretty into the references and all that.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it really hit home to me. Like, I really liked you guys, and like, honestly, you say it's a gimmick band, but Joel's a great songwriter,
Is he ever?
and they're awesome songs, and I I would recommend
Yeah.
B+ players. People know you guys are a really good band.
It's a fun band. It's our jams consist of like us like playing a song, stopping. Like, you know how some bands are like, okay, we got to do this, and then we're gonna segue into this. Like Future Girls are like that. It's like we jam so hard and so tight that it's like we've worked out a very cohesive like half-hour long set with all the material we have right now.
Yeah.
B+ jams are like we jam, we play a song, we stop, we talk about wrestling for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then eventually it's like, okay, what's next? And then we play that song, and then we stop. And our jams go for like 2.5 hours. It's really funny.
And then you go to play, and you're like, oh, we can't talk.
Yeah.
We can't talk now. We're doing a show.
Oh yeah, no, we do anyway.
Yeah.
We take up an awful lot of time on stage sometimes. But
It
whatever.
diverges.
We just
sometimes.
looked at the set list, and it's like, okay, we got to cut Yokozuna or something like that. But
Awesome band. But then, is there any other bands you're in?
I'm also in a band called the Scoop Outs, who are long-standing. For a long time, they were kind of the torchbearers of Dartmouth music. We all live in Halifax now. I only joined. That band was a unit long before I joined. Like, I think they have roots in like 2006 or something like that between Ed and Jesse. I was like, they used to have a space that they rented called the Warehouse that was kind of like the meeting place for all the people that were making music in Dartmouth at the time. I kind of became the couch guy there that would stay there, pass out drunk on the sofa, and like go there when it was cold and I didn't want to walk all the way home and stuff. And then they were looking for a guitar player like a year or two later or something like that, and they were like talking about all these other people, and I had never even thought about it. But then one night I got an invite to a party at Ed Caswell's place, who's the drummer for the Scoop Outs, and the three of them were standing in a huddle when I walked in, and the party was going on in the other room, and they were like, "Do you want to join the Scoop Outs?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I want to join the Scoop Outs."
Yeah.
So that band, we don't do a whole lot anymore. It still is a thing. I feel like we may have worn out our welcome or something like that, because we used to take every single booking we could find. We weren't as selective as we were. Also, we've had a record in the can for like 2 years that we're just like working on finishing up and stuff like that, but it's still a thing. You know, there's still Ben and Edward and Jesse are still like three of my best friends. It's just like hard to get the four of us in the same room at the same time. Like, I hang out with all of them individually, but to get us like in the same room at the same time. But it's happened twice in the last month, so that's promising that maybe we'll get the record done and play a few shows. We have a few shows coming up actually, so
Nice.
So that'll be fun. And that's good country Meat Puppets kind of rock or something like that. And we're in between the Meat Puppets and the Wipers or something.
Nice.
I see a storm on the rising, that's dividing all the land between me and the place I call my home.
passing by, it blinds my eye, but I still see I gotta keep moving along. There's a winding road ahead of me. I could sit and wait it out, but I really doubt I can wait that long. I've been waiting all my life, I better carry on.
I don't know. Let's start from the beginning of your musical life. Where were you born?
I was born in Antigonish, Nova Scotia, and 3 days later moved to Port Hastings, Nova Scotia, just outside Port Hawkesbury. Port Hawkesbury would be where I went to school and came of age and all that stuff, but Port Hastings is a small, tiny, I believe it's defined as a village, just a hair away from Port Hawkesbury on a map. So as soon as you cross the causeway and go into Cape Breton, that's where I grew up.
Nice. And did you, what was the first music you remember, hearing in your life or liking, I guess?
It would be like my parents' record collection. My parents were both very, very much into music, and I can remember Neil Young's Decade, the double greatest hits, and Tom Petty's Full Moon Fever and a couple other his records, and The Last Waltz by the band and stuff, and that was all kicking around the house when I was growing up. Blue Rodeo,
Nice
stuff like that. My dad's into a lot of blues. He really loves the Stones and stuff like that.
Canadiana,
I
guess is
there's
that
a
what
lot
it's
of
called?
Canadian. Yeah, I guess so.
Blue Rodeo.
Yeah.
Neil Young Decade, is that the one with he's has a guitar on his back or
yeah,
something?
and he's got his arms spread looking
Yeah.
into the sunset or
running
whatever.
into a beach or something?
Yeah.
I think we had that one too.
Yeah, it's a double disc of greatest hits that came out. It's a double disc of his material. It's a greatest hits of his material that came out in 1977, and he put out a new record this year. So that it's a double record. So
Mind-boggling.
there's a lot of stuff on the
Neil Young. I mean, holy cow.
Yeah. It just kind of spiraled from there. It's I came of age. I started meeting people and paying it. We got Much Music when I was in 1996 or 1997 or something like that. And that's not where I first heard Nirvana or anything like that, but it was definitely where I started to get exposed to the mostly Canadian can rock stuff that was around at that time, like Limb Lifter and the Tea Party and Big Wreck. Some of these bands I still like Limb Lifter, but yeah, so I guess Nirvana was the first great love, and I'm pretty sure that everybody that'll probably ever be on your podcast that's roughly my age will probably tell you that, but
Yeah, see,
there was a serious obsession going on there with me at the time.
that seems to be the question when I talk to people is what was the first loud band you're into?
It's it's almost
rock
you should change your question to when did you first hear Nirvana and where did it go from there?
So, what month did you hear Nirvana?
Yeah, exactly. April 2000. Actually, you know what? I think it was April 94 the first time I heard Nirvana. I'm just recounting a memory now. My slightly older cousin got a copy of Nevermind, and because I remember my uncle bringing it home, and it's the naked baby on the front, and all I can remember is my uncle saying, "Look at the Peter on the little fella." That was my first, and we put it on, and I was like, "This is cool."
Such
And
an uncle thing to say.
Yeah. So in 1994, I was 7 when I first heard that.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, that's around when Kurt died.
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
the
Is it
month
not?
Kurt died.
Yeah,
So that's probably why the record was purchased in the first place, was
that's
because
insane.
of that. So
Well, that's cool. Nirvana, like for me, it was Green Day,
yeah.
and I feel like maybe I was just late in that because I didn't get into music till I was about 10 or
Yeah.
11.
Well, me hearing Nirvana in April 1994 is just kind of like a happy accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, see, I was more like in '96 or something. I heard someone talking about, maybe their older sibling listened to Green Day, and there's a lot of swearing in it,
Yeah.
and it's cool, like it's badass,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, okay. And then I listened, and then I finally got Nimrod.
I think that
I
same
was like,
year,
Yes.
that same year, it was like my aunt for my birthday got me 3 tapes, one of which was Bruce Springsteen's Greatest Hits. The other one was a Blue Rodeo record. I can't remember which one. And the other one was Dookie. And so Dookie I was also exposed to at a very young age. And I remember everyone saying that, like, Longview, that's the dirty song. It says fucking masturbate in it. You can't.
Yeah.
And I don't think my parents were always cool in the way that they didn't really monitor what I was listening to. They were just kind of like letting me figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, me too. I went and bought Nimrod. It was my own money. It was my first CD I think I bought.
Yeah.
I was like, I felt kind of like, I felt a little devious getting it,
Yeah.
bringing it home in the car and looking at it and knowing that my parents didn't really know all the dirty swearing and the
yeah.
like raunchy language
Yeah.
on it. So that's a pretty cool feeling,
Yeah.
I guess. Nirvana, yeah, Green Day.
Mm-hmm. All those bands that you're into when you're not supposed to be into them just yet.
Yeah.
If you're growing up around that, if you're around our age, then those were the band. Kind of Blink a little bit later on, but
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Blink was more like obvious, and they wanted to be kind of like raunchy and
yeah. They wanted to be juvenile.
juvenile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I have an easier time believing what, like, even though Billy Joe's lyrics are somewhat absurd at points, it's like I have an easier time believing what he's telling me than I do, Travis Barker.
Yeah.
So
Travis Barker.
Yeah.
He barely speaks.
I know he's a great drummer though.
Awesome drummer. Weird side note, I just saw today, for some reason I'm on Travis Barker email list, because back in the day I was like I was super into transplants, and I getting into, like, I just love Travis Barker's drumming. Obviously,
Yeah.
I am a drummer, but email today, he has a drum sample collection that you can like purchase, I guess,
Really?
now, and it's like all his signature sounds.
Yeah, for
and
studio
stuff.
purposes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does have a pretty distinct sound, so
So it's like the Travis Barker plugin for drums.
yeah,
Sweet.
sample set or something.
Yeah.
And it's all his shit, and he's like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Someone told me recently that that's how Sean Parsons got so good at drums, was when he was younger. And Sean, if you hear this and Dylan's wrong, then you can call me out on it. But you just like sit there and listen to the Mark, Tom, and Travis show over and over again, and like air drum with his fingers out like this.
Yeah.
So that he had like a base of where all his cymbals were and stuff like that. And
It's very well mixed, and while his drums are very, like, his snares stands out a lot.
Yeah.
It's very tight and tinny. You can hear it.
Yeah.
Doing every
it cuts way
note.
through. Yeah.
So yeah, his drums cut through a lot of their records, so you can really, I can see that happening.
Big time.
I started playing drums along with Nimrod
Yeah.
in my house on like random objects.
There you go.
Like I remember having a little box, and I put it fit a basketball in it perfectly.
Yeah.
And I had like pieces of wood that were not drumsticks, but were like dowel things.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
And
Like almost too big for you to wrap your hand around, sort of thing.
no, they were small,
Were they
but they were
smaller?
from something. I ripped them off something, and they
Yeah.
were just like, but they had like just flat ends.
Yeah.
But I was just hitting stuff, and I remember a basketball sitting in a box, so it was solid. And I would hit that, and it would give it a really deep tone, like it was like not fully inflated.
For sure.
And then I had like just a plastic bucket, and that would be like my loud
Yeah,
snare,
yeah.
and I'd have 2 drums, and I would just hit them, and then I'd put like some pots and pans into the mix later.
Yeah.
And dumb things like that is how you start to play music.
Yep.
So that's what I was going to get into now is when did you first pick up an instrument, or how did you learn music?
In grade 5, I played the trumpet for a year
Oh.
in my like music class that eventually became like the high school band later on down the road. But like the following year in grade 6, I ended up, I was showing an interest in Nirvana and whatever was on the radio and stuff like that. And my parents bought me a bass, and it was kind of like I was able to switch out of the trumpet and kind of learn sheet music in the school band, which I forget all of at this point. And
Don't we all?
Yeah, I was trying to recount the circle of fifths to somebody the other day, and I got nowhere. But yeah, so I got the bass. I still have that bass. It's kind of like when you were showing me that guitar that you had earlier. That's just covered in stickers and everything I was listening to at the time, and whatever stickers I could find. But I played it. I had I was playing Nirvana covers with my buddies, and my uncle showed me Smoke on the Water and stuff. And actually, my buddies would write out tabs for me, and like what they would do is they would draw out the fretboard and show like figure 1 and figure 2 and figure like a diagram sort of thing.
Yeah, the
So,
chords or
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, so that's how I kind of learned how to play bass,
Nice.
by
Just
reading figures that my buddies would draw out for me.
so a little collaboration, but mostly
Yeah,
self-learning, I
yeah,
guess.
for the most part. I had a
Yeah.
few lessons with my music teacher at the time, but it did not go far because I think she got a little frustrated with me because I'm left-handed, and I probably should have had a left-handed instrument when I first started, because I remember thinking that my low E should be on the bottom. You know what I mean? I remember thinking that the instrument should be upside down from what it
Yeah.
is, and so like every time she was like, "Okay, hit your, F sharp or whatever," I'd go down all the way, like to my G, and hit an A instead.
Yeah.
And so I eventually kind of like had that not beaten out of me, but I eventually learned. I just adapted, and I've been playing right-handed guitar ever since, even though I'm left-handed. So
You just like stubbornly think a certain way.
yeah,
That was like me in playing catch.
yeah,
Like I was left-handed, but I would want to throw the ball with my left hand. But then I'd also want to put my glove on and catch with my left hand.
Oh, you want to do everything
So
with
like
one
for some reason it was all with my left hand, and then they were like, "You got to throw with your right hand, I guess, because you're catching. You're good at catching with your left hand, so just throw with your right." So I ended up just throwing with my right hand.
Yeah,
But I'm kind of pretty left-handed. Like
I was gonna say, what's the opposite of like ambidextrous, where you can use both hands for stuff?
unidextrous.
Unidextrous. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's like, fuck the other hand.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need that.
Chop this thing off.
But now, yeah, I don't know. I'm
deadly.
same. I play the right-handed
Yeah.
way, but I am left-handed. That's weird.
There you go. So you write and stuff with your left hand?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
There you
it's weird.
go. I understand. I feel your pain.
I'm not listening, I'm not listening, not this seems like the bullshit. I'm not listening, not listening, not this seems like the bullshit. I'm not this easy, not the bullshit.
So, what was the first band you were in?
First band I was in was technically like my buddies and I just like playing Nirvana covers, but we never had any shows or anything like that. We would just like get together once a month, like about a half hour outside of where my parents lived, and like played Nirvana covers. Later on, I wound up forming a high school metal band called Cryptic Delusions, where we would I know, right? And we would play like Judas Priest covers and Slayer covers and Metallica and stuff like that. And
what did you play in that band?
I played bass in that band until I switched over to drums.
Oh,
Yeah.
so drums, same deal. Did you learn just by doing it?
Well, my brother wanted to learn an instrument too. And so my parents wound up buying him a drum set, and he learned how to play it. And he's a really good drummer. I'm playing a show with him drumming for me in like a week from when we're recording this. But the drum set was sitting there as well. So whenever he wasn't playing it, I was playing it. So I was like sitting there and trying to play. I was starting to get into punk rock and stuff like that at this point, like outside of Nirvana and Green Day and stuff like that. I was starting to delve in a little bit. So I was learning how to drum that stuff in my parents' living room, driving everybody insane. Like
the living room
when my brother wasn't driving everybody insane playing drums at the same time. So yeah, so I learned how to do that. We had Cryptic Delusions had a drummer, and he used to bring his own kit to my parents' garage where we would jam. And he wound up getting both his feet crushed in a forestry accident. He was working he was a lot older than us. I don't know why this guy, who was probably like 28 at the time, was playing with a bunch of like 15 and 16-year-olds.
He was doing real man's work.
It's beyond me. He had like an actual job working in the woods. He ended up getting his both his feet were fucking demolished.
Oh my god.
By like this I can't remember what it was. But anyway, his drum set stayed.
The thing that crushes wood.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, whatever that thing is.
Cuts it.
Yeah, like a giant wood splitter is what I envision. But it's just it sounds brutal. Anyway, he was laid up for a while, so Cryptic Delusions needed a drummer, which is the more
That's the
important
bigger
part.
problem.
Yeah, exactly. Shit, Sullivan broke his feet. Well, I have this drum kit sitting here. So, like, he had his drum kit in my parents' garage, and we had my brother's drum kit sitting in the garage. And so what we did was we built the giant 2 bass drum monstrosity of like 2 bass drums. I had a snare where I'd normally have a snare, and I had a snare to the left, and I had like 6 toms, like 4 racks and like 2 floors and cymbals everywhere and stuff like that. And I was playing double kick all the time.
The more the better.
Oh man, it was my Neil Peart phase. And it didn't last, thank God. But I think I got my mom to drive that entire thing in the minivan to like a show at the school one time, and I don't think it ever happened
The
again.
one and only time.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, since then, I mean, what made you move to Halifax?
I came up. I had another band when I was in high school as well. It was a punk rock band called Malicious Mark. It was my friend Dale, who now plays in a band called Burger Fries Pop. He was also formerly in Miles Deck and the Fuzz, and also No Flyers Please, 2 of my favorite Halifax bands ever. And my friend John Hines, who went on to do his solo stuff. I played drums in his band for a while. He's up playing a show tonight, actually. I'm missing it as I'm recording this podcast, and I'm very sorry, John.
Sorry.
Ty's also sorry. But we had like that was my kind of punk rock band that I played drums in, and I listened back to it now, and I was really hyper and doing a lot of crazy fills and stuff like that. Dale and I wound up moving to Fredericton in 2005 when just like not long after I graduated high school, I guess, and pursuing that as like kind of a 2-piece. And like doing kind of like moving away from punk and kind of doing like new wave almost, like kind of Joe Jackson or XTC kind of music. Dale and I had a bit of a falling out. I came back to I came back to Port Hawkesbury and then worked at a call center until I saved up enough money to move to Dartmouth to go to college with my girlfriend at the time. And that's kind of when my brain exploded here in the music scene of Halifax in 2007 when I found out that Gus's Pub was a thing. Because back in the day, you go to Gus's Pub on a Wednesday night and it would be, packed. Like with the right show and the right group of people, there was like it was just a great atmosphere, whether it was metal or punk or singer-songwriter or country or whatever. It was like there was always something going on at Gus's Pub, and that's where I kind of found myself kind of when I first moved up here to Halifax in like 2007.
And it would just probably just been so much going on and
Yeah.
like so many people and
Yeah. Well, my mind was blown because like there was never any shows in Port Hawkesbury. That's why Dale and I moved to Fredericton first, and then I kind of figured out that there wasn't a whole lot happening in Fredericton at the time, or at least I wasn't there long enough to really immerse myself in the scene or anything like that. So when I came to Halifax, that's kind of where the floodgates opened for me, and I started going to see a lot of shows and started to meet people, and reconnected with Dale and like met Craig Hamlin and like probably met Matt Grace, although I didn't really get to know Matt until a few years later. But yeah, that group of people.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, coming up in a few minutes, Coleman brought us a really great song he's going to play live on the podcast. But right now, here's his band, Future Girls, featuring the aforementioned Maddie Grace, with a song called Middle America. So the song you brought today to play, what is it? And tell us about it.
Well, the sort of the theme of your podcast I've noticed when I was like listening to Matt Upton and Matt Grace, it was like kind of like and yourself as well when you did the song from the first Green Day record, and or the first song you learned how to play. I was just trying to think. I was kind of like racking my brain a little bit because like every time I do a solo set of covers or something like that at Rock for Dollars or at Gotta Jam, I like kind of play the same, not necessarily the same songs all the time, but it's always like I'll play a Graham Parsons song, or I'll play a Replacements song, or I'll play the Getting Older by The Clean, or like, you know what I mean?
You got your own little classics.
I've got my ideas in my head, like these songs I'm good at, because I'm pretty guilty of like not actually sitting around and playing guitar all that much, like on my own, unless it's like I got to sit down and learn this bass line that Craig wants me to do, or this bass line that that Matt wants me to do, or like even like the B plus or whatever. So I'm not really very good at sitting there and honing in my skills.
Like focusing.
Yeah, focusing in.
I kind of know what you mean.
Yeah, like learning new material. Like I kind of, and I work a job with very terrible hours right now that I've consistently apologized to all my bandmates and girlfriend for actually keeping this job. I'm working on it, everybody. I'm sorry. So the song I picked was it's called "The Days That." What's it called? "The Days That Used to Be" by Neil Young, and it's on Ragged Glory, which is kind of the record after the comeback record that had "Rockin' in the Free World." It came out in 1990, and it's just one of those CDs that my dad had when I was growing up, and it's one of those things you ignore. You hear things when you're a child, or when you're like still absorbing things as much as you can. and you don't really like. Sometimes you don't think about it for a long time. And I remember going back and listening to that record and being like, it was just that record that was on at the house, or that was on in the car, or something like that, or it was on in the garage when my dad was working out there, or whatever. And like, I would just hear these songs. I love that record. It's long, but it's like, that's a good short song that's on that record that I really love, and it really makes me think of it takes me back to being 5 or 6 years old and just puttering around the house and hearing that record playing in the background. You know what I mean?
And it's just a Neil Young song.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, doesn't sound like 1990, I
No.
guess.
He's kind of timeless. It's like,
Yeah.
it's so weird. I kind of feel like, I don't know, like when I went back and discovered Neil Young on my own later on in my life, and I listened to it On the Beach and Zuma and American Stars and Bars and kind of like these other records.
Tonight's the Night.
Tonight's the Night is so friggin' good. Like, that run of records is unparalleled as far as I'm concerned. It's like, so like you can find a hit on every Neil Young record, even if it's like the weird ones like Reactor or Hawks and Doves or Landing on Water.
Landing on Water.
Yeah,
I was
Life.
thinking of that one.
Yeah.
What a weird one.
You can always find something that's like, I don't know. Neil's got one of those voices, and it's like, I say this a lot, but David Byrne from the Talking Heads has this really great quote that's where he says, the better a singer is, the harder it is for me to believe what he's saying. And it's like, I feel like that personifies Neil Young. It's the same reason I love The Replacements, because I believe everything Paul Westerberg is telling me, or like, like same thing with Husker Du, and like, band, like any kind of like lo-fi kind of aggressive, passionate vocal, like, I can grasp that.
It's like they're constantly trying to sing.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to be heard.
Yeah.
Whereas a singer is just already got that down
Yeah, exactly.
pat, and they're just saying stuff. I
Yeah.
guess.
And Neil Young is like his voice is like it goes somewhere in between beautiful and like fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
At points, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I saw him live a few years ago when he was here in Halifax. I saw him twice actually, because he came back 6 months later. And it's like both times, as soon as the first chord rang out, I was just like, you get that feeling where like the lump starts to come up in your throat and stuff. And I was just kind of like in awe for the next, what felt like 5 days, because like he would just solo and solo and solo, but it didn't matter. I was just like in it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could listen to that guy go forever. It's just like, has to do with like hearing it ever since I was a kid and stuff like that. But that's one thing that stuck by me, so that's why I picked the Neil Young song today.
Nice.
So,
Neil Young, a classic.
He's so great.
Neil Young was big in my family too. Probably my dad's favorite, most played music in the house and whatnot.
Big time.
And he played guitar. My dad played guitar a little bit, and he would always go on about how like Neil Young is just the greatest. And, blah blah blah.
So what I was saying, well, I guess not when we were on earlier, but it's like when I was growing up. And fuck, we'll start to get into it now. But like when I was a teenager, it's like all my friends were like into like, we were doing the metal band, like we were listening to a lot of prog rock, like Yes and Genesis and Gentle Giant and ELP and King Crimson, who I still love, like Pink Floyd, who I still like, and like a lot of my friends who were kind of like the guitar virtuosos that were doing the shredding Yngwie Malmsteen thing, where like Neil Young's just like, he's just burying his shit and he's burying his guitar in reverb and playing basic notes, and it's like yeah, but I believe him.
He's putting everything into it.
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
Like it doesn't even matter what his skills are. It's just he's just putting everything into it.
It's like, oh, what is the song, like G, C, and A minor? Come on, man.
Yeah,
this isn't A suspended ninth. So
that reminds me, there was this guy in our high school who would always just sit in the cafeteria with his electric guitar, not plugged in. He would just bring it to school, and he was like kind of a loner. And we'd look over, and he would just be doing furious tapping
Oh, really?
like
Yeah.
just doing it like, but with no amp,
Yeah, yeah.
like just practicing. I called him the Shredder.
So to you, it sounded like.
Just this guy like moving his fingers all over his guitar, and you're like,
Yeah.
just started to hear about like what tapping was, and
Yeah,
you're just
yeah.
like, oh man, he's just shredding. The Shredder.
Did he ever join a band or anything like that?
I don't
that
think
you
so.
know?
I
Yeah.
never saw him play in a band.
Yeah. It's too bad.
It's a super shredder!
One more question.
Sure.
What's your favorite instrument?
My favorite
Your
instrument
instrument of choice
that I play, or just of all time?
that you play.
Okay.
Like are you a guitarist, or are you a bass player? Are you anything?
That's a good question. I guess technically by trade originally I'm a bass player. Because
I guess it's like almost like, what do you identify as?
well, I haven't played a whole lot of that's funny. I haven't played a whole lot of drums since I was also in this band recently. I should note, called the Mancos, and I was playing drums in that band for three of my favorite people. Sam Horak was the lead singer, Sarah Yandel on guitar, and Maria Bryan on bass. Before that, Sam Callahan on bass, who wrote a lot of those songs, who was awesome. All of those girls are so awesome. But I got really good at drums, and I was like, at that point, if you would ask me back then, I probably would have said, I love playing drums. Like, that's all I want. I want to play drums in all my bands. And that's it. Because I got I just had a lot of space to fill there, and I was able to like do a whole lot of stuff and like play really aggressively and like have a lot of fun doing that. It would like, to answer your question, it would switch around, but it's like, as of right now, I'm playing bass in most of my bands, so it's like I'm more likely to sit there and pick up my bass and play for a while than I am to pick up my guitar and play for a while. If I pick up my guitar, I'm probably just going to pick some country for a while, for a bit, and
so it depends what you're doing.
It depends on where I'm at.
It depends what bands you're in, or what.
I'm in 4 bands right now, and I play bass in 3 of them. So.
Yeah. So there you go.
So that's right now. I'm a bass player, so it's kind of come full circle because that was the first instrument I learned besides the trumpet that I played for a year, or the recorder that they gave us in music.
No
class.
ska bands on the go.
No ska bands on the go.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
Isn't it you said something? You're like a jack of all trades kind of thing.
Yeah, master of none for sure.
Master of none.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. I can do a lot of different things, but none of them really great.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I feel too.
Yeah. It's good that I'm privileged enough to be able to where I'm at now with the bands that I'm in, surround myself with people that are really, really, really good. Like you, Hamlin, and Matt especially. It's like I get to play bass for Craig Hamlin, who I've grown up, since I've come to the city, listening to like the Dean Malenkos and Tonga Death Grip, and listening to him blow my mind playing guitar and write these but the songs that are just bananas. So I get to like fill that gap for him, and I get to fill the gap for Maddie as well, like in Future Girls, and then with B plus. I have a lot of space to fill there too, and like that's just a totally fun band to be in. The Scoop Outs is kind of a different thing where I'm playing on top of everybody instead of in sync with everybody, because I play a lot of the leads, like kind of noised out, fuzzy leads and that. But I forget what the question was.
It's just, what's the best instrument, or what's your favorite?
The bass.
Well, there you go. You heard it. Coleman is a bassist. All right, well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And we're going to hear your song.
Sure.
Tell us what it is again, and we will we'll roll out of the show hearing your tune.
It's The Days That Used to Be by Neil Young, dedicated to everybody I've ever made any sort of connection with before in my entire life. I hope you're doing well.
Nice.
Thanks, Ty. Okay. You going? Cool.
People say you don't rock the boat, let things go their own way. Ideas that once seemed so right now have gotten hard to say. Wish that I could talk to you and you could talk to me. 'Cause there's very few of us left, my friend, from the days that used to be. Seemed like such a simple thing to follow one's own dream, but possessions and concessions aren't often what they seem. They drag you down and load you down with the skies of security, but we never had to make those deals in the days that used to be. Talk to me, my long-lost friend, and tell me how you are. Are you happy in your circumstance? Are you driving a new car? Does it get you where you wanna go with a 7-year warranty? Or just another 100,000 miles away from the days that used to be?